Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Welcome in Life Planning 101 right here on KTX KWBY. Terry Slavens with you on this Monday morning, and we welcome in Angela Robinson. Good morning, Angela.
Good Monday morning, and boy, do I have a fun topic to end the year with, especially around the holidays, I guess. I don't even know why I decided to do this today, but one of the things that, we've been working with 40-somethings and 50-somethings is a big decision. Your retirement or college for the kids? Which will it be?
Yeah, because sometimes you can't have both.
It's becoming a really big challenge because things aren't the way they used to be. You've got tuition that is just out the wazoo, and you look back at how much tuition has gone up, and I found some statistics that used to be a public four-year institution back in 1987, 88, so that we're looking 30 years ago. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
$3,190. That's exactly right. So you think about what tuition is today, around that $10,000 mark to, goodness, if you go to a private school, 50, 100,
sure.
What's it going to be? Take your pick. And you can easily Google what those prices are. They're crazy. And so, figuring out what you can do for your kids and at what sacrifice you're willing to do that for your kids is a big deal. And, on the flip side of this coin, as we talk to parents, we hear over and over again, my parents helped me out. I want to be able to help them out. Or I don't want them to have to go through what I went through by having all this debt. Or I hear about all this debt that, my friends have, and I don't want my kids to be in this. And it's real. Forbes just came out with a deal not too long ago that's over this $1.5 trillion dollar crisis that we have. And they had a statistic that the average student in the class of 2016 had $37,000 in student debt.
That's a tough way to start life.
That's a very tough way to start life. So obviously I can't look at parents in the eye and say, well, I can give you exactly what to do because there's a lot of factors involved here. And, T. Rowe Price, they were very interested in this. So they did a survey on parents, kids, and money. And they found that 74% of parents, this is how big this is, 74%. So that's basically 3 out of 4, right?
Sure.
With young children are prioritizing by saving for their kids' college over saving for their own retirement.
3 out of 4.
What does that mean for future retirees? Or what does that mean for their retirement? And, if you're one of our listeners that is the grandparent or the great-grandparent or the parent in this situation, and you're hearing this, you can answer that. What does that mean for my children's retirement? Where could that end up? And it could be in trouble. It could be in big trouble. And I think that's really a focus that we need to take more seriously. And like I say, I picked the holiday seasons for no reason over this, but I do think, as you approach the new year, it's something to be able to consider is where do I need to be putting my priorities? So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this in today's show. And I promise you, you're not going to want to miss what we have to say.
Segment 2 of Life Planning 101 right here on KTX KWY. Angela's talking about college tuition this morning. Angela?
Yes, I know. Such a light topic for the holiday season.
Toe stomper.
But it's really important. Your retirement or college for the kids, which will it be? And I ask it like that because a lot of times when we meet with people, we have that hard knock conversation. In fact, almost all the time when we have, parents with younger kids, we ask, if you are going to have to choose, what is it going to be? What is most important to you? And, no matter what the answer is, we work around it and we try to figure out what it's going to be. A lot of times, and I know we live in a culture that we do want it better for our children than the way we had it. And we were born that way. We were bred that way. We were bred to think that way. And that's what we do as Americans, which makes us the greatest country in the world. Yet sometimes I wonder how much we're actually hurting ourselves or hurting our own future by forgetting to take care of ourselves by putting on our oxygen mask first. And, you have to consider that. Even if you're not wanting to do it, even if you decide at the end of the day that I'm not going to put on my oxygen mask first, you need to know what you're facing and what that actually means. Because if you don't, and you don't have that backup plan, or you don't have what could happen and how you're going to deal with those details, you may not just hurt yourself, but you may hurt the person you love most in life, and that might be your wife or your husband. And then what does that mean for them? And sometimes we forget about those things because we're so intent on a goal. And so I bring that up before I get into the nuts and bolts of this, because I'm going to be very non-biased in today's conversation about your retirement or your college for the kids. However, I am going to talk dollars and cents, so to speak, right? And I don't mean cents in C-E-N-T-S. I mean cents in S-E-N-S-E. So we're going to talk about just the logistics of the way things work. And I want to start by sharing something with you that Albert Einstein said, which is perfect. He said that the most powerful force in the universe, and you may know what this is, Terry, is compound interest.
Absolutely.
And, we do agree with this, that time outweighs the power of a dollar tenfold. You can't get it back. You can't, go back in time. And I always hear people say, well, I'm going to start planning next year, and I'm going to start planning next year, and I'm going to start planning next year. And then we look at the file and we realize, oh my gosh, these people have been clients for 10 years, and they've been saying they're going to do this all along, but it's 10 years later. Well, that's 10 years that they can't get back. So what does that actually mean for people? And I think you got to bring it, like I say, to the dollars and cents. So I want you to imagine for a moment that your goal is to have $1 million when you retire at 65 years old. Okay. Well, if you're that young couple that's starting to save for that goal at 25 years old, you need to save around $286 a month if you end up earning about 8% interest compounded on a monthly basis.
Right.
Okay. $286, less than a car payment. Probably doable for most people. Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but what if you put the priority of, college in front of that, and you waited 10 years to begin saving for retirement? You would actually need to increase your monthly savings to almost $671 a month. So you're talking about a $385 difference by waiting 10 years. And it's also, if you actually added up the dollars on that extra 10 years, your total amount of savings would be $104,000 more over your career to get to the same goal.
That's amazing.
Time is powerful.
Yes.
Can you say so?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's huge. So you might be thinking, well, how can I start saving for retirement when I have a looming $5 or $6 figure dollar education bill in front of me? That's massive. We just talked about what that means, and we don't in some cases we don't even know what that means. People are scared. They don't know if I buy these Texas Tomorrow plans, are my kids going to go to school here? Are they even going to go to a normal school? Will it be transferable? What'll happen? There's no real good answer for what you can do with your education savings, so to speak. But obviously people feel that there is a big need for it when you have 74% of the surveyors saying they are prioritizing their kids' college over saving for their own retirement. So we have a saying around the office. We say, you never will change your mind based on what you already know. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're never going to change your mind based on what you already know. But you might change your mind based on some new information. Would you agree with that?
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, what if you could do both? what if you could save for education and save for retirement? You don't want to miss it right here when we come back.
Life Planning 101 continues here on KATX and KWY. Angela has some great information for us this morning.
Yes, great information. You're so optimistic, Terry. Your retirement or college for the kids, which will it be?
It's almost
Sounds
Christmas.
More like grave information.
I'm just in the Christmas spirit. That's it.
Yes, you do have the Christmas spirit. I am impressed. But back to this grave subject about, retirement savings for your kids' college. And like I mentioned, it doesn't matter if you're the parent in the situation, the grandparent in the situation. This is something that I think every family needs to be talking about, because it's a biggie. And figuring out with their planner, with their life planner particularly, what they need to be doing to be able to meet their goals and figure out what is the real priority. And isn't it more important to be able to put your own oxygen mask on first and then help your kids if you can? Or if your priority is, I am not going to see my kids go into debt, then what does that mean that you need to do to make sure that you take care of those what ifs in life? And those are big. And we talked about in the last segment about, being able to perhaps do a little bit of both when everybody puts their mind and their dollars in one place, and that is education. And we said, well, how is that actually done? Well, something that is often forgotten when it comes to saving is utilizing a tool that I love to use. Obviously, I talk about it pretty regularly, and his name is Uncle Sam. And he can actually help with the bill. Okay, so I want to give you a little illustration here. I'm going to make this real simple, but let's just say that you're saving $1,000 a month, okay? And you're in the 24% federal income tax bracket. Now, I know nobody really understands what that really is because this is the first year of tax reform, but that means that for every $1,000, you're paying about $240 of taxes. So if you're making college a priority and you're putting back that $1,000 into a 529 or something like that, you're going to end up, if you make that 8% return, right, having about $183,000 after 10 years. Okay, pretty good amount of money. Might put a kid or two through school.
Right.
Just depends on what the inflation looks like. Depends on what happens, right? But let's say that you don't make education a priority. Let's say that you take that same $1,000 a month and you make retirement the priority. Well, if you do that, that $183,000 is now $227,000.
So $44,000 just like that.
Yeah, just like that. And it's all thanks to Uncle Sam, okay? And the reason why is because if you're doing that on a pre-tax basis, you're actually getting a $240 extra in your pocket each month, right?
Sure.
Because you're not giving that to Uncle Sam. So if you have that $240 extra in your pocket that you didn't have before, guess what you can do with it? Put it back too, right? So Uncle Sam can help you out. It's just a matter of, are you letting it? Do you know what you don't know in order to be able to leverage this to do it, right? And I want you to imagine also that you have other monies that you're currently using on insurances, taxes, or savings that could be maneuvered and maximized like that. We find it all the time. We call it find the money, right? That's one of my favorite things to do is when someone brings us all their information, it's like putting together this massive, gigantic jigsaw puzzle and figuring out, okay, if there's a hole there, how can we plug that hole? Or how can we get to the top here? Or it's kind of like Jenga. How can we build this tower and then start pulling pieces and putting them back on the top to get as high as we can get? So it's an exciting planning illustration to be able to use because it's real. This is really real. I mean, that's a huge amount of money that people don't realize that they have. And there's more to the story. So one of the things I think, okay, so yes, I do remember what spawned this article, and obviously, and by the way, don't forget, we have all of our articles on life planning, our life planning website, and our life planning library. You go to Kennedy-financial.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter. You get them every single week. They correspond with the show, so we put in some extra tidbits and information in there. It's great to be able to use, and then we have all kinds of other things on our website, from credit to tech tips to financial tidbits to insurance tips to everything. Great thing to do. So make sure you do that. But when I was writing this article, I had found an article by Wealth Management Magazine, and I read it. And it was done by Kevin McKinley, and he said the dangers of saving for college instead of retirement are actually much more than people think they are. It's not just about the dollars themselves, but if you think about a 529 versus, say, a 401k, what's the liquidity like with that situation? What are your investment options like with that situation? What are your expenses like with that situation? And the biggest is financial aid for your children. If you actually understand the way the financial aid process works for your kids, and you start to calculate the numbers, and you've built this gigantic 529 for them, guess what you've just done?
It helped them out tremendously.
That's right. That's exactly right. And people don't understand that, don't know that that happens. So one of the things that we always look at when we're looking at, different ways to be able to fund, college planning is what can we do that could still leverage that financial aid? What could we do that could help that family be able to get as much bang for their buck out of all these different areas, not just the investments themselves? I think that's so much where people try to figure out what to do. And then, more so, people worry about the market being downturns during, when they need that education money. And that's big. And how are you going to be able to hedge that if you have a limited investment option plan? And you have to think about those things. So, one of the things, I want to revert back to before we end up closing out the show today is that, we believe in education as much as anyone. In fact, we're in the business that if education is not made a top priority by this country, and I mean a top priority to figure out a way to make it better, that, our capitalism and, our markets and everything else is going to end up not being what it used to be. So we believe in it more than anybody, and financial education, all of those things. Obviously, we do this every week, and we make it our priorities to be able to help families design a plan that fits their unique situation to accomplish all of their goals. But that doesn't always mean that you can accomplish all of your goals. Sometimes it means that you have to look at life in the face, and you have to say, okay, what's the most important thing here? And laser focus. When you get laser focused on one goal, it can be a great thing. It can be very rewarding, but it can also hurt you if you're forgetting to look at that entire picture. Because what happens to the couple that put back all this money for their kids and put their kids through college, and then, by the way, he became disabled at 48 years old due to a stroke.
Right.
And he can't work anymore.
And you see more and more retirement age people that are still working, and that might be one of the reasons why. Now, another thing, Angela, in this deal here, if you do this planning, and little Johnny or little Susie is a Einstein and they get a full ride scholarship, you've just really padded your retirement by not needing that money.
That's exactly right. And there's so many things that you can do. We talked about this in another show a while back about talking to your kids early on, incentivizing them, help themselves. And guess what? They're going to feel a lot better if they had skin in the game. And guess what? They're going to go to school as short a period of time as they have skin in the game, right?
Not professional students.
There's all kinds of things out there that they can take advantage of with scholarships, and if they just put a little effort into it. So, I want to finish by a famous quote by Warren Buffett. He said, "Someone is sitting in a shade tree today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." So what I want to tell everybody is don't forget to plant your own shade tree, no matter what your goals may be. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. God bless everyone. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.